For years and years. I still don't have a religion, but dude, there's not nothing. I'll tell you that there's not nothing. I've experienced some deep spiritual shit. I don't really know what it actually pertains to. I know that there's something out there. Something, a higher power there is. It's undeniable for me now because of my psychedelic experiences. I've had friends of mine take large doses of mushrooms and Jesus' dad, God, showed up in their bedroom. It was more real than anything they'd ever seen in real life. And so that's somebody who's a devout Christian, was able to really have a deep spiritual experience with their God. Not with some fucking weird thing that came out of nowhere, with their God. So we're here today to talk about how mushrooms cured my cocaine / meth addiction / tobacco addiction, all in one heroic dose. This video will cover my addiction and its magnitude so that I can attempt to showcase, I guess, the healing powers of the mushroom. I'll give you a brief rundown as to how I came to this conclusion and what brought me to trying the mushrooms for healing my addiction. I will go over what this could mean for people who have unsuccessfully treated just the symptoms of their addiction. I believe rehab is just treating the symptoms. If you don't understand how you became an addict, then how can you understand how to fix it? And so what the mushrooms do is allow you to go deep into your psyche and fish out the answer. You might ask, when would be the right time to do this? And the right time for me personally, and I can't speak for everybody, and it's irresponsible for me to suggest somebody takes a high dose of psychedelics, but if you've gotten to the point where you look in the mirror and say, I'll do fucking anything to rid myself of this fucking affliction. Nobody wants to be on dope. Nobody wants to be on coke. Most people who smoke don't want to fucking smoke. They just do it because it's a bad wiring. It's a fucked up program that they will succumb to if they can't stop in the name of comfort. Today makes 3 months since I took my heroic dose of mushrooms to attempt to purge out the tobacco addiction that I couldn't get over. While I had this tobacco addiction, I also struggled with cocaine and meth usage for the last 10 years off and on. I could go 6 weeks at times with no drugs, and then something would trigger me. The stress would be too much and I would go use. And I always thought it was just bad choices, but really it was bad coping mechanisms that I had developed that I didn't understand. And what the mushrooms allowed me to do was to understand that. First, I'd like to say 90 days in, I haven't had one puff of tobacco. I have purposely put myself around people that have done cocaine right in front of me. I had no physical reaction. And prior to that, when I would see cocaine, I would literally need to shit. It was a physiological reaction, and that's gone. I, being the fucking line walker that I am, even did 2 bumps of coke on purpose to see if I wanted more. Now, in the past, when I would do any amount of cocaine, I would always need more. I would go spend the money that I didn't even have to spend just to get more. This time, I hated every fucking second of it. It felt like I snorted an anxiety attack. And that was the only time I even craved a cigarette since, and I still was able to say, no, I'm not doing that, and no, I'm not doing any more of this shit. And that's never happened to me. And the first time I ever used cocaine, I was 16 years old, and I'm 31 now. So, you do the math. That's a lot of fucking times of not being able to stop. How did I get to this conclusion? To try and treat drug addiction with another drug. I was watching Brian Rose's London Real show on YouTube with Dennis McKenna. And he said something to the effect of, everybody wants to talk about ayahuasca being the medicine that'll heal, but you can get the same out of ayahuasca on 5 grams of mushrooms in the dark. And at that point I realized, well, I have no access to ayahuasca. I felt like people needed to go to South America to get access to ayahuasca. But I do know where to find some mushrooms. And it'll only cost me $30. So I started doing my research. I started taking smaller doses. Now, the week before my heroic dose, in which you are supposed to pray out loud as to what you're trying to understand prior to going into this trip. The week before, I did 2 grams with no plan. And I had in my meditation, you lay in the dark, you eat the mushrooms and you go lay in the dark, and I put on some meditation music. In my meditation, I came across 2 negative things. Somebody I had problems with that I shouldn't have, and somebody who I didn't go see when I was on meth. The following week, after I had felt like I had purged whatever loose change was built up, I took the 5 grams, I had a guide come to my house, and we prayed out loud. And the prayer was to understand why I'm an addict. I need to know why I'm an addict. Just tell me why so I can fucking understand. And, well, I believe I got the understanding. You should say, I have all the power. And I have the ability to reprogram myself. It's when you become conscious enough to understand that your brain is a computer. Then you can become conscious enough to understand that everything you come in contact with impacts your software. It impacts how your shit works. Like if you're, God forbid, you're walking down the street and you watch somebody get hit by a car and their head is split on the ground. You're gonna have PTSD from the shit most likely. And that random occurrence impacted your programming. When you watch the news, it impacts your programming. Some people watch CNN and they walk through the streets and they fuck shit up. Some people watch Fox News and look at those people on Fox News watching through the streets and they go, why are they doing that? Well, these are the fucking programs they are feeding their brain. Why else? You know what I mean? It just makes sense. So the more you say shit and the more you talk about shit, the more you influence your reality. With that in mind, everything impacts your programming. If you're addicted to drugs, your programming is faulty, okay? For instance, meth addiction. You don't sleep, you don't eat, and you don't bathe yourself very often. That's pretty much par for the course across the board, okay? Well, our survival instincts tell us we need to eat, we need to sleep, and we need to bathe ourselves to avoid getting dirty and getting disease. That's nature, literally. So why are our programming programs against the nature? They're trying to kill you. Literally, they're doing things that nature is programmed for your survival, and they're working against them. So, what the psychedelics do is they reboot your brain, and what the prayer out loud does is it puts that thought into your head. Now, you can't just say this out loud and expect it to work. You must feel it. You must live it. You must understand that it's going to work. And if you're not convinced that it's going to work, it'll never work. And by the way, what I mean by convinced is, if the same way you believe in God, if you're not convinced God isn't real, you'll never follow the fucking religion. But the second you're convinced God is real, you can go to church and then you can partake in that worship. It's the same concept. And I believe, as a former atheist, that if you already have a religion that you follow, that this is the God you pray to when you take the mushrooms. Because you already have a spiritual connection. There will be links posted below with the videos that put me onto this path, so you can educate yourself in the same manner that I educated myself. And I don't want to encourage anybody to go take a high dose without doing the research. So please peep the links below and get learned and make a decision yourself.